We all know that in this decade, the global economy is going to change. The last time it happened was around, I think, 1750, when Europe started becoming a larger part of the global economy than Asia. And this decade, by 2020, the emerging markets outside the OECD will be larger in economic size than the OECD. And this is a very seminal change that happens maybe once in 200, 300 years. Because till 1750, India and China were the largest economies, and these economies were based upon muscle power and human power. It was based upon artisans. It was based upon a very different kind of economy. And then Europe started dominating because of trade, and a very important discovery in Europe made this change disruptive, and that was the invention of the steam engine. Through the steam engine, man harnessed raw energy and created machines which could create goods and services at multiples of what a human being could do. And that led to the Industrial Revolution, and the world changed tremendously and left behind Asia and the rest of the world. And that had a different connotation in terms of the events that unfolded, colonization and all that. And a particular way of growth happened. And that now is changing because the emerging markets outside the OECD are going to become a larger part of the global GDP. The global GDP today is $77 trillion. The United States is 17, Europe 17, depending upon the currency. Japan is 5. Japan is part of this OECD, or whatever it is. And then the rest of the world comes behind. The rest of the world is now going to grow faster. And that has its own repercussions. Because America today has 6% of the global population and consumes 25% of world energy. And if China and India grow at 7-8%, China is growing at 6%. It grew at 9.9 from 1978 till 2015. And India has grown at 6.9 from 1991 till 2015. And if India and China, which is 40% of the world, grow at 6%, 7%, the world doesn't have enough resources to meet the needs of these people. And that's exactly what is happening. And that's why the world leaders are very concerned that, look, we have grown, we have become rich, but if you follow our model, we are all doomed together because you can't escape the consequences. No longer can the United States stand behind the pond and say, we are not concerned because we got two large waterways in our boundaries and you can't come. Right? Right now we're seeing refugees go to Europe in a very different way, crossing the Mediterranean. They can't do that. So this whole model, what was, is going to change because of economic conditions, and it is irreversible. And aging has become a reality. Population in Europe is aging. Germany, the average population is 45 years. And in Scandinavia, Russia, the population is declining. And even in France and other countries, the population is aging and declining. So the OECD and America is growing 1%, primarily because of immigration. And it said that the Hispanics will be the largest community in America by 2050, overtaking the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant population, which made America in a very different way because of the Protestant work ethic. We know that. So that's going to change. So society is aging, economic conditions are changing, and we're going to see a new order come, dominated by Asia again. The last 250 years of global growth in the long civilized history of the world could be a blimp, but it has transformed the world like never before. And this model of transformation, sadly, was based upon unsustainable exploitation of nature at all cost to grow. And we could see this unsustainable exploitation of nature, right? How could man become rich? Destruction of forests, destruction of natural resources, logging, destruction of the animal kingdom, and many things else. Whereas, before all this happened, human beings had to sustain themselves because the lifespan was shorter. They didn't have the means to destroy. Now, because of steam engine and mechanization, they had the means. And they went all out and created this economy based upon consumption, based upon destruction, and based upon exploitation. So the philosophy was very clear. The philosophy was conquest, conquer, conquest, dominate nature, conquer nature, destroy nature, right? and greater accumulation of wealth. Go to South America, kill all those indigenous population, mine the gold, and take the gold away. Go to other places, destroy the economies, take away the wealth, like happened to India. So this is the method of which growth came by. Yes, before that too, there was conquest, there was destruction, but on a smaller scale. Maybe, I would say because of the lack of technology, on a more sustainable scale, because, well, there have been millions of people who have been slaughtered by Genghis Khan, destruction empires have happened, but it didn't have the same effect on nature as happened in the last 250 years. So this kind of accumulation of wealth and self-destruction. So it went from the particular philosophy of restraint that was there to a philosophy which had almost no limitation and which led to the two great wars in the last century. And that led to the creation of the atomic bomb, and which meant that everybody could be blown up together. The whole world could go. When you come to the thread, the whole world could go, it means that you can't do anything because your need for self-preservation says that you can't do that. And the only why, the balance of terror. Earlier there's no balance of terror, you could conquer, you could do many things, and the balance of terror as far as human civilization is concerned, but now there is a balance of terror as far as nature is concerned. That's because we have exploited the world 1.5 times the ability to sustain itself. Now we're all scared of climate change, we're all scared of pollution. In Delhi, people are going to live 5 years less. I don't know whether good or bad, because we're all dominated and we're all oppressed by Delhi in the south, but it could come to us, and that could be the danger. You can't escape. It will come to New York. And now they say that the North Pole the Arctic is melting and waters could rise 100 feet. I don't know whether they'll rise. If it goes 100 feet, New York is gone, London is gone, San Francisco is gone, Chennai is gone. We are 1,000 meters up, dock, so we'll last a little bit. But large parts of the world could go. What does it mean? It means that we are all in this together. We can't destroy each other anymore. Because try to destroy each other, we'll be destroyed. So self-preservation instinct demands that we change our ways and mend our ways. And there's a very, very important element that has come, and this Paris climate change was a culmination of the realization that this planet is all that we have. And if we want our children to have a good life, and all of us have children, if we don't have children, I don't know what is going to happen, then, we want to give them a better planet than we had. So we've got to change the ways of how we do things. And this is global, and this is happening all around the world. So we have to have new models of sustainability, new models that enable us to live together in peace, and new models based upon principles of self-realization and acceptance. The world preach tolerance so far. Tolerance means I am tolerating you. That means I am superior to you. I don't accept you, but I tolerate you. Now that's dangerous. The West tolerates everybody else. Because why? Everybody is a winner. But I don't accept you fully, equal to me, even though we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Because the model is based upon conquest. And the model is based upon conquest because I know I'm superior and I can dominate. Superpower. The world has a superpower. Now there's only one superpower, but Putin has come up to balance again. We don't know what is going to happen. So we see this kind of domination based upon superpowers and all that. But that's been the thinking. And the crux for the change is not the realization of atom bomb, but nature hitting back because of climate change. And that is put a fear. Is climate change real? Well, we see all kind of phenomena, but if you look at long pace of history, maybe it's too slow, maybe it's not happening. But pollution is real. It's impacting Beijing, it's impacting 30 cities, impacting Delhi, impacting Bangalore. It's not an impact, maybe California went through that. It'll come there too, because the clouds, I'm told, travel, right? Germany had acid rain many years back in the 60s and 70s because of this. So we are facing this kind of a change. And in this change, and in management, we have also used the same kind of a conquest. Because in management schools, you get youngsters who are bright, you teach them how to conquer, and then put them on eBay and auction them to the highest bidder. It's a very mercenary system. So what is your KPI? The KPI is what is the price that you get for the highest bidder. It's an auction system. And then go and conquer, accumulate wealth at all costs. And you teach them risk management and tell them, look, so long as the risk is at the edge, where you don't go to jail but you pay a fine, it's okay. So you are at the edge. And that led to the great global financial crisis because they're all at the edge. They were not doing good things, they were at the edge, saying we may not go to jail, but we pay a heavy fine. And they paid billions of dollars. They paid billions of dollars. Why? We taught them, this is the edge. You can go there, structure, do this, blah, 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 create markets, do all this kind of thing. It's fine, make the money, but go all out. And your key factor for success is how much wealth you do. So the whole thing has become accumulation of wealth and things like that, which is a very different model. And that we are finding today that, frankly, is not sustainable because economies can't sustain it. Europe cannot sustain it anymore. Their social compact is breaking down. America is finding great divergence. And the rest of the world is finding there is divergence, but the whole model itself is unsustainable. So it's got to change. And the change has to come. And the change hopefully will be led by business schools too, because the business schools in the 70s and 80s accelerated this kind of a conquest-based thinking and a conquest-based economy. And I think that's why we need to rethink how we are going to live on this planet and look at issues. And some things strike us as being self-evident. Self-evident truths, right? Faith is self-evident truths. And what is that? First thing is, we're all in the planet together. There is no distinction, there are no borders. Borders are artificial. The winds that go from one place to another, go. You can't stop the winds. You can't build a wall to stop the winds, right? Climate changes everywhere and lashes everybody. You can't change it. You can't put barriers up. And in the midst of all this, a new phenomenon has come up, technology. And technology is set to conquer man. Technology was a tool to conquer nature. Now technology became a tool to conquer man. Why is that? Because we are creating artificial beings. We are maybe on the verge of creating artificial babies by genetic engineering. We come to a stage when you can change the DNA and create a designer baby. Now what happens to all the sayings that babies are gifts of God and life and the whole concept of creation of life comes to a natural process? Now you can have a baby with the DNA to get whatever characteristics you want. I want a tall, dark, 6'8" giant with the brain of an Einstein. Yeah, maybe you can engineer and get it. And you have surrogate mothers and all kinds of things for the rich. Actors have surrogate mothers and stand for values. So technology is elongated life. Today people say a child born in America will live 100 years. If people live to 100 years, and in 1900 people lived up to 27 on the planet. Average lifespan was 27, I think. They live up to 100 years, what happens? Are we still going to have babies? Are we still going to have families? Are we still going to be materialistic and pursue this? And by stem cell research, you can regenerate body organs. It costs money, of course, few $1 million, but what is a few $1 million to a billionaire? And you create drones, you create robots, and in Japan, there are more robots are being created because 25% of the population is more than 65, and they're creating a robot which is warm. So you can always hug the robot, and the robot will say, coo, coo, coo to you. So you may not need a wife or a husband. You have a robot. Maybe they put artificial intelligence, machine learning, and put empathy and emotion in the robot. And maybe they create a skin which is very soft like a human skin. And this is serious. This is happening. This is happening. So biotechnology can re-engineer a human being, give you drugs to meet your DNA request. You can regenerate body organs. And I just read that people have now started a company in California to look at your neurons and take your neurons from somewhere and put it in a brain in the part of the brain that's damaged to reconfigure. And now they're thinking of brain research whereby they can pump memory into you and take off memory from you. So all the neurons connecting will not be natural, but it can be manipulated. Now this may sound scary, but at the edge, these things are happening. That means technology is trying to dominate man, and technology tries to dominate man. As you see in America, the distance between the average person and the rich widens. There are no billionaires than ever in this human history. The rich are getting richer. The middle class in America has been devastated the last 15 years because of automation and technology. They not see the incomes grow. And it's going to happen in India. In the last 10 years, 1 million jobs have disappeared in India because of automation. In America, 10 million. I mean, this is a natural thing that happens. But we are seeing technology become so much that it's tending to dominate the human being. And all the science fiction stories that people spoke about when things dominate, there could be a reality. Am I trying to put fear into people, say something which is not unique? But look around and judge for yourself. Now, all these things are happening. It all means the point is the world is changing, and it's changing much more rapidly than we all think. So we all need to relook and reassess what we need to do. And for that, what should we do? One, we have to create sustainable models of development, sustainable models of living in society, which does not impact nature to the same extent that nature hits back at you. We should not become victims of any natural changes, but we must become people who live with nature. That means we must rediscover the way how we live with nature. And for that purpose, the most important thing I would say is we must look at self-realization and understand within ourselves what is the purpose of a life. What is the purpose for a human being to be on this planet? I mean, just now Mr. Kamruddin made a statement about the purpose according to Islam. So all of us should look at our own faiths and find out what is the purpose that we think we're going to be here. Is the purpose the domination of nature? Is the purpose conquest of people? Is the purpose the greater accumulation of wealth? Is the purpose leading a good life with reasonable expectations and being happy? The American pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. But a pursuit of happiness without the exploitation of nature, the destruction of nature, the destruction of other societies. So we have to look at ourselves and see what is it that we have to look for, because the truth lies in self-realization, so that we must teach people to look at the values which dominate a society, because throughout our human history, we have seen great people come and talk about the purpose of life and tell you these are more important than kingdoms, more important than, conquest, more important than gold, more important than wealth, because at the end of it, you have to meet your maker. The only truth in human life is mortality. Mortality is the only truth. I don't know whether there's a heaven. I don't know. Nobody's gone there and come back. I don't know whether there's a hell. But the truth is mortality is a reality. And mortality is the only reality in life. There's a beautiful story told about Alexander. I don't know whether it's true. When Alexander came down and conquered the world, he defeated Porus and then came down. He was injured and he was camping because there's a rebellion in his ranks. So he camped in somewhere, in middle India, the western India. And then the soldiers were rebelling. They wanted to go back, and he was brooding. There's a man who used to brood. And one day, sitting in the tent, he saw in the far distance a holy man go by. So sent his soldier to say, go get the holy man. Soldiers went, and the holy man said, why should I come? Who is he? What is he? I'm not going to come. Then Alexander got angry. Then Alexander sent his troops and caught him and brought him and said, why didn't you come? He said, why should I come? Who are you? I'm Alexander the Great, conquer the world. Then this man laughed out aloud, rapidly. Ha ha ha, Alexander. He said, why are you laughing? Alexander, conquer yourself, that's the greatest of all conquest. Conquer yourself, the greatest of all conquest. There's truth in this. Conquer yourself, that's the greatest of all conquest. Why? We are made full of emotion, of fear, of anger, of fury, of enormous energy, of greed, of love, of compassion, many things else, right? They're all a mix in our minds. The chemical reaction that happen in your brain, all the emotions that come, is all chemical reaction, by the way, okay? Right? We all know that now because of science. They all make you what you are. And that drives you to do many things, right? And what is the purpose of all that? It's something that you must realize. And maybe when you're young, you don't realize that. When you grow older, you know there's an end date, and the end date is not going to change. And every day you live is one day less. Am I right? So you start thinking something else. Mortality hits you. And that's the time. But then, in our lives, self-realization has to be there. The value system has to be there. We must build models based upon sustainability. And we must also change our outlook. We must say the whole world is a family. We are all in it together. There cannot be differences. And violence is not acceptable anymore. Violence, conquest to other nations, conquest to other people, conquest of nature is not the purpose of life. And you must all stand up and talk about it. And you must all stand up and say that. And in business, we got to create a different value system based upon duty. All faiths, all spiritual systems talk about duty. They talk about compassion. And they create a God. And say that they're God who's compassionate. And will reward you if you do well. But we will judge you on the day of judgment if you hurt other people. Why is that? Because the system created by man, whether there's a God or not, I don't know, but the system created by man always tries to make man much more compassionate, much more willing to accept everybody else, and to say that everybody is part of the same family. You have but one life and live it peacefully while you are there. And live it well. Live it for others. And do good to everybody. Don't harm anybody. That's the essence of spirituality, the essence of it. But for that to happen, you must have self-realization. And business is driving the economy today. Money drives the economy. Business drives the economy. So what should we do in business and management? I think we must rediscover the values of management. My belief is Western management is based upon the Protestant work ethic. Max Weber's Protestant work ethic. And they succeeded. It's a nice philosophy. They succeeded. The philosophy of existentialism is Nietzsche's philosophy. It all succeeded. They had a certain value system and they succeeded. Now, each civilization has to find what is in its DNA, which is a value system which will succeed. In India is the concept of dharma. In Islam, it could be something else. But dharma means duty, duty of care. That I think is evident in all faiths. Duty. What is your duty to yourself, to your family, to your country, to your to human beings and to nature? What is your duty? And the discharge of the duty should be done in a manner which is, not destructive, which doesn't harm anybody. So the Jain philosophy of not harming anybody, look at the beauty of that, right? The Jain philosophy of not harming anybody. The Islamic real philosophy of making sure that you live in peace. And the Hindu philosophy of dharma. The Christian philosophy of compassion and love your neighbor, right? It's all there and is there, and that we must synthesize and put into our management. And we must look at this secular debate because values are not enemies of secularism. Secularism is in the public area. It's been the state and the citizens, right? But when we live, we have face, or maybe no face. We have face is fine. We all have rights. So we must, this secularism thing, we must debate it and understand what it means. It means that countries and organizations should be equidistant to everybody and should not dominate, because history has shown that when church and the state dominate, it destroys society and creates an oppressive system. And that the distinction of maybe the diverse of church and state is what created liberal democracies all over. We know that. We studied that. And we have to have the debate. In Eastern societies, there are no such debate. There are no such debate for whatever reason. In Western society, they went through that because of the Dark Ages. So in management, we must have this concept of dharma, duty, and inclusiveness and participation. Inclusiveness and participation. And then the conquest principles that we teach, conquer, dominate, do this, should lead to the Ashokan principles of truth and justice. I don't know how to do it because, we are creating in management, we have to combat, we have to compete, we have to conquer, we have to kill, we have to dominate. If we remove the instinct, will we be successful? I don't know. Ashoka was not successful. He was successful for a limited period of time because he was a dominant power. The moment he went, there was a conquest. So are you going to be successful? I don't know. That's what we got to debate. But the point remains, whatever we have done has to be, the theory of conquest and domination has to be moderate. It has to be moderated. And in that moderation possibly lies a future. And in that moderation lies sustainability. And for that, the spiritual question has to be answered and faced with it. And spirituality and faith are two different things. So we always get stuck in this faith debate. Faith is individualistic, but spirituality is universal because the principles are the same. All faiths have the same principles because they cannot be anything else. They cannot be anything else. All faiths. When Kamruddin is talking about it, I remember the Gita when Krishna tells Arjuna about God. He is omnipotent, omniscient. He has no end and no beginning. He is the seen and the unseen, the being and the unbeing. The same concept. Everybody has the same concept. It's a power. Why power? Because we can't define it. Because we can't define it, we give it a name. It's a he and a she. Right? We give it a face. We give it something. And then that becomes a power structure, a structure of exploitation. Because then we say, we give to ourselves the right to interpret who that he and she is, so we dominate everybody else and we get structures. And that conquest, domination. So in management, I think we have to change. But I don't know. I have no answers. Because the issue is we live in a very combative, competitive world. And competition is good because it gives you the best, it drives innovation, it drives change. Without competition, what happens in society? I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of research. So I just want to end here by saying that we are going to see in the next 20 years change on a scale never seen before by any civilization, except when civilization got destroyed. We know that in history because they're all kaput. It's all over. When Nagasaki is gone, there's no change for everybody. Everybody is gone. But we're going to see change. And this change is going to have repercussions all around the world. And technology is going to be a huge element of this change, and we don't understand the impact of this technology as yet. We don't know which form it's going to take. And we, as leaders of society, have an obligation to society to analyze this, understand this, and develop possibly new models. And those models have to be based upon sustainability. Those models have to become more inclusive. It cannot be conquest, it cannot be domination. Though in business, these are important principles. So we have a dichotomy, right? And this dichotomy we got to do. And at the heart of it, we have to focus on self-realization. Mature societies focus on self-realization. We all, and the individualistic journey as to what we want to do, how we want to. Maybe I want to be a billionaire. I want to be the greatest scholar. I want to be the greatest politician. Maybe that is it. But then, whatever you want to be in ambition, we must moderate that impact of that ambition on the rest of us. And that can only come by some inner thing, so we need to debate that. Thank you very much. When we say spirituality, it gets tied up with faith. And faith in the world is divisive. It's divisive. We have to accept that. It's divisive. Faith is divisive. The way we interpret faith has become divisive. That's the reality of the world. So when business talks about spirituality, we all get scared. What does it mean? Are we going into unexplored territory which we don't want to do because we want to get away from all these conflicts, division, because then people get sensitive. When we talk about ethics, it's neutral. When we talk about secular, neutral. We hide it. We don't want to address it. So the better way is values and spirituality. Move away from ethics to values. And in values, explore the meaning of values. And there, I think there's space to grow. Because the word spirituality is a red rag. Because for everybody, spirituality and faith. And that divides. So let us accept reality. See, we're all good people. We all think universal. We think the world is one family. The world doesn't see it that way. That's the sad truth. So we have to accept reality and see how to work to moderate reality. Can we change reality? It's going to take a long time. But let's moderate reality because today we are facing a crisis. At the best time to moderate.
You think this technology is going to be a boom or a doom?
I am right now sitting on the fence. I'm not going to say doom or a boom because technology has to be a tool of mankind. But technology goes to a certain extent when it dominates mankind, the very being of a man, in the sense it tries to recreate a man. For example, today, Watson, the IBM computer, is far ahead of any human brain in the world. Because it has got self-healing, self-learning, machine intelligence, artificial intelligence, and it can beat anybody anywhere. So intelligence has gone far ahead. Is it good? It's very good if it harnessed for humanity. But can it create different kind of things? Possibly yes. And we need to debate that. So we are at the cusp. I'm not a Luddite, please. I'm all for technology.
Father Matthew, and then
Yes, Father.
Then we close here.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent speech. And my question is that technology, and especially biotechnology, is said to be value neutral. How it is to be regulated, either by politics or spirituality? What would you say?
You see, we cannot stop the advent of technology because technology is led to the very essence of humanity, and that is the acquisition of knowledge. So we cannot stop it. But we have to debate with everybody, especially scientists, to find out what are the limitations that we must have on technology as far as it concerns the human being. Are the limitation the creation of life? Does man have a right to recreate life outside the natural system? Does man have a right to go against aging, which is the natural process, and prolong life to such an extent through genetic manipulation, to stem cell research? Then the question comes, can you do anything through discovery which can limit and limit the ability of individual to live a full life. So these are all questions, Father, that we have to debate and we have to discuss. There are no answers. Because now we're coming to the place where it may actually happen. Maybe 20 years back, it was still a dream. We could all say, okay, TK, chordo, it will happen. But now we are seeing that happen. And especially I'm very concerned about genetic manipulation because it cost $100 million 10 years back, 15 years back to read out, to decode the human genome. Now it's only $100. The computing power has exploded. So you can do many more things. And today, because the world is so rich, there's so many billionaires, they're pouring money into see how to elongate life. They got money. And they're pouring money. And what that's going to create, I really don't know. So we have to debate this, we have to confront, we have to understand, and all scientists have to come. And further, the self-realization. Will we all accept, when we got a chance of living up to 150 to all this, 150 years, will we all accept the natural process of aging? I don't know. Right? I don't know. Despite heaven and everything, will we all accept? I don't know. Everybody wants to live longer and say, okay, I'll go to heaven 150 years after I leave, not 80, because I'm rich. Right? These are questions we have to, I have no answer, but we have to debate them.
Very good. Last question, George.
Sir.
Resonate with what you said and about mortality, about sustainability, all that. And I see you ended with saying that I don't have answers, I don't know what to do. And that's where I would like to say, the starting point is what you did now. And somebody like you, with kind of presence in the country, if we can articulate this further, I would say there is a ripple effect that happens. And that's the answer in some way, I feel.
Yes, Father, that it means, Father, that people who are in leadership positions, academics, intellectuals, business leaders, have to come together and discuss these issues. We're all stuck with the mundane issues of day-to-day life. Conquest, domination, money, right? Politics. But we have to start discussing this because we are at an inflection point. I think Paris was a good opportunity. But we need more debates. We need more meetings of mind without division. In a very open place where you can discuss all issues, there are no issues off the table. No issues off the table. And we all are transaction oriented. I think we need to do that. The engagement has been very less.